Welcome to the St. Augustine Chronicles. Thank you for tuning in today. I have in studio today somebody that I know you're familiar with from the 904 Now, Pete Melfi. Thanks for coming in, Pete.
Thank you, Karen.
Well, you're always here, so.
Yeah, I'm always here. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming in and doing this. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
So I know that his viewers are familiar with him, but I thought it would be interesting to just find out how Pete got his start and the background on what he created here. He also grew up here, so I think there's some cool stories from that. But this isn't about the show that he does. This is about Pete the person. So thank you. I know it flips the switch for you, and
yeah.
It's a little
well,
different.
Hopefully we don't scare all your viewers off when they get to know Pete the person. Yeah, I always worry about that. We'll see, Karen.
No. So you are a true local, right?
I'm a true local. I was born at the Flagler Hospital, which used to be on the Bayfront. It's obviously not there anymore.
When did that close? Do you know?
I don't know. It was around probably 1990-ish, early 90s.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was not too long after I was born. I was born in '84, and yeah, have just really grown up in St. I mean, it's my hometown. Other than a couple of years living in Niagara Falls, it's been really all here in D.C. A couple of years in D.C., but it's been all here.
Did you live downtown? You lived downtown for some of your life
yes.
growing up. Did you live downtown for most of it?
I've lived in every corner of this town, Karen. I mean, I really have. We moved around a lot. We were in houses. It seemed like we were always in a place that the owner was waiting for his mom to move in. Like we were just. It was always a real temporary thing. Like it's open
or they
for
want to
6
sell.
months.
And,
yeah. So we bounced around a whole lot. So I've literally been in every corner. One of my first memories was on Avali Street. We lived in a little apartment above what used to be a place called Cafe Camacho's. My mom worked down there. She would work down there during the day, and then when she was done with her shift, she'd bring us up to the apartment strawberry banana milkshakes every day, which I loved, and I can still taste those strawberry banana milkshakes. I can see the styrofoam cups still.
And how long did you live there? Not long enough, I'm sure.
Not long enough. Maybe 2 years,
right.
Probably 2 years. Yeah, and then bounced around a little more. We were just all over the place. My parents separated when I was real young, probably 4 years old. So there was always mom's house here and dad's house here, and a lot of times in different parts of town. There were times my dad lived out of a motel at one point. I mean, it was just everywhere you can imagine, Karen. Saragossa, off King Street, just everywhere.
So how's it changed? Do you think it's changed for the better or for the worse overall?
It has. There are a lot of things that have changed for the better. A lot that annoy some of the locals. Like along with a lot of the tourism, there was always tourism growing up here, but obviously there's been a huge push for it over the last 15 or so years, and so you get the traffic and the normal stuff that people complain about, but it's with the growth. St. Augustine was almost like a little time capsule. We were almost like stuck in the 50s or something. It never really felt like we were up with the times,
I wonder if some of that is just small town life, though.
Sure.
In general,
sure. Yeah. It's just, you probably hear people say it all the time, but it was, when I was growing up, I mean, you couldn't drive anywhere without honking the horn and waving at somebody you knew. I mean, everybody knew everybody, which was good and which was bad.
Yeah, when you're a kid trying to do a little bit, get yourself in a little bit of trouble. As
soon as you do something wrong or you go to a party or something, then the neighbors are calling your mom. Right. I saw your son over here. I know he's grounded. What's he doing? So, but it's changed a whole lot. But I don't think that much for the worse. I really don't. It's still
you
a
have
really
to
cool
change,
place
right? You have to evolve.
You have to adapt, always.
Yeah.
Always. I mean, as people, as a town, as anything, you just can't stay stuck in one mindset, in one place. You never can. So
I didn't realize until I've talked to people that have come in here that the tourism trains were around for as long as they have been. I moved here in 98. And I didn't think about it, but I'm just surprised when people like come in and tell me things about the 60s and they say, oh, the tourism trains. That never occurred to me that they were around for so long.
Yeah, as long as I can remember, they were around.
But they must not have been as full as they are now throughout the whole year. We don't really have that much of a down period anymore.
We have no breaks anymore. That's the thing. That's maybe one of the things that people can say. It's worse for some people, better for others, I guess. It's great for businesses downtown. to have that all year kind of automatic business for them. But yeah, it definitely wasn't always like this. There was definitely a season where it was, okay, we're going to be packed with tourism for these 4 months.
Right.
And then we're going to have a break. We're going
Right.
to go back to normal St. Augustine life. But
Yeah.
we don't have that at all anymore.
Yeah.
So COVID was kind of interesting because it kind of brought back a little bit of the feeling of 10, 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
That's what I heard from everybody who's lived here for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it used to be. Downtown, you could walk downtown. I mean, we were always, as kids, there was nothing to do. So one of our biggest things, my dad would just name different places parks, and we would pretend like they were parks. So the plaza was the Cannon Park. But you could walk all around downtown and St. George Street and all that, and there was just barely any traffic. It was just a wide open place.
Well, my street still, I live on Valencia Street, and normally it's full. And,
Yeah.
everybody parks there. Students, residents, people going to the dentist's office on Valencia.
Sure.
It's always busy. You can't find a parking spot. But even now, once Flagler has opened up a little bit and businesses have opened up, I just biked here, and there's mainly open parking spaces on Valencia, even
Wow.
now. So,
Wow.
but it was really strange when COVID hit, and I looked down the street, and it was just vacant. That was really strange for
Yeah.
me.
It was interesting just driving downtown with almost nobody here, and it really did. Yeah, I'm sure
It
you
was
heard that from
sad in
every
a
local.
way, but it was really cool.
But it was for those of us who've lived here, it was just like, oh yeah, this is why we loved it. This is why people used to move here, because it was like this. But
So you said that there wasn't much to do. What did you do as a kid?
we made
Fish
things,
and
yeah. I mean, oh, Karen, I was
bike
the worst
and-
fisherman ever. We went. I swear to you, Karen, I went fishing. I remember going fishing with my dad out by the lighthouse one time, and I cast out a worm. There was a worm on my line, and somehow I came back up
With nothing?
with bait shrimp. It was like a fish was messing with me, just like,
Take
we
it out
know
and
this
put
is
it
Pete Melfi. He's terrible at this. We're just gonna mess with him. Here's something else. We're just gonna swap
We'll
out
put a
what's
tire on there.
Yeah, I know. It was amazing. I could never catch a fish. I've caught bait shrimp, and I caught one of those mantis shrimp. It's like a hybrid between a lobster and a shrimp. And I do this when I do it because I didn't
It's scary
catch
looking.
it. Oh yeah, and they'll cut your fingers off. I mean, they've got really hard clamps, but yeah, that he actually caught me. I pulled up my line, and this guy was basically doing push-ups from my hook. I mean, it was hanging there on the hook, and I can't take credit for that because he got me. It definitely got me.
Did you just cut the line, or did you have to actually take him off the hook?
I didn't know what it was. I could have got my finger snapped off. I didn't realize what it was until some other guy came up to the pier, but I don't remember how we got it off the line. But
Okay, so fishing wasn't your thing.
fishing wasn't the thing. No, we were there wasn't a lot to do. So like I said, we would make up parks. When I was real young, my dad used to do a dinner theater down at what is now the Hilton, what used to be the Monson. And it was a thing where tourists would come in every weekend. Just a busload of tourists would come in on the weekend, and my dad would host plays. So that's kind of where I got the entertainment bug. Like from a really early age, I remember always wanting to go and see my dad's plays. They were all the same week to week, but I loved seeing them. I loved seeing the crowd and the audience reaction and the laughter and just people having fun. So I had a lot of fun in the local entertainment scene. I did Cross and Sword, which was if
At
you
the
don't
old
know,
amphitheater.
yeah, down at the old amphitheater, they used to have this play that kind of told the story of St. Augustine. My dad was worked down at the amphitheater, became the general manager at one point, but so I would do a lot of the plays that they would do down there.
You acted?
Yeah. I loved acting. I did Limelight Theater stuff a lot when I was a kid, and loved it.
I would never have guessed that.
Really? Yeah.
Because you seem like you are a little bit shy in a way, even though you do this.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what a lot of actors say about themselves.
I could see that. Yeah, sure. Because this is kind of a way, I guess, to express myself where I don't have to hold back. And I don't know why I don't feel like I have to hold back, because I'm talking to much more people doing this.
That's what people love about you, that you don't hold back.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hold back. I always say that people are just tired today of the plastic fakeness that you
Mhm.
just get on TV
That's
and really
right.
everywhere.
That's
You know, people are just craving reality, real reality. Even reality shows
Yeah.
are the farthest thing from
Yeah.
reality. So yeah, I think that's what people need today.
Yeah.
That's what they want, and that's what people need. It's just reality. People
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
you
Although a
know?
little bit too much reality the other night on national TV, maybe.
Oof. Yeah.
Not that much reality.
Yeah.
A little uncomfortable.
No. That's why I try to stick to as much local stuff as possible.
Right?
I don't.
Well,
That
local
reality.
stuff gives you a lot to work with.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's well, see, one of the biggest things for me in starting out this whole thing was to kind of turn St. Augustine, at least what I was doing, my perspective on St. Augustine, into entertainment, into its own reality show, so that people understood the characters, the players, the local government folks. People got to know their names, and people understood kind of more of where they stood in an entertaining way. My whole goal with this is to educate people while entertaining them. Almost sneaking the education into the entertainment.
I think you're doing that really well.
I'm trying. Thank you. Yeah, I'm definitely trying. It's interesting trying to keep up with media and social media and trends and what people respond to. It almost feels like these days the world changes every few years.
Yeah.
It's just things are so different than they were in the world 5 years ago. Obviously, this year they're different than they were at the beginning of the year, but there's always evolution. I'm just trying to keep up with that most of the time.
So going back to growing up here, what did you do like in high school? What was there to do?
Nothing. I don't know. In high school, I think we drove around a lot. We went to the beach. We harassed tourists. There was a point.
How'd you harass tourists?
There was a point where I had a megaphone, a PA system installed into the hood of my car. So we would just go downtown and get on the PA system. Get the hell out of St. Augustine. Nobody wants you here. Free the horses. We would just drive down. That was the fun. That was all there was to do. Because there was nothing other than trying to sneak into one of the restaurants that pretended to be a club at night. There was nothing to do, really, as teenagers here, except make your own fun.
So you got away with that? The police never cracked down on that? Never caught you?
No. The good thing was that speaker was hidden. So I guess if you weren't right in front of my car getting berated and yelled at by me, you didn't really know where it was coming from.
So you really started pretty young with what you're doing now.
Yeah, I guess with the prankster stuff, yeah.
You've been kind of doing this all
yeah,
along.
Yeah, harassing tourists for a little while. Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Yeah, you kind of had to make your own fun. Yeah, you really did. There wasn't much. I can remember in high school we had a friend who worked at a hotel on the beach. So
there can't have been that many hotels on the beach.
This was the Days Inn at the time. It's something different now, maybe a Hampton or I don't know, but it was the Days Inn at the time. But he would always get us. He would get a suite every week, so that a bunch of us could have.
How did that work?
It's St. Augustine. There was nobody that was watching over him. Nobody cared. So we would get a suite every single week and just have massively illegal parties at the Days Inn. And, it was like having parties at that age. It was like you knew the cops were going to come, especially here. So it was just have the party.
Go.
Right.
Yeah.
How long you could have the party until the cops showed up and it was all over. The cops showing up meant the party was over.
And they probably just called your parents rather than arresting you?
Yes,
or,
for a lot of people
talk to your
they did.
parents the next day at church or something?
Yeah, for a lot of people they did, yeah. I don't remember anybody really getting arrested at those, but I remember jumping out of windows and running was fun. That was half of the excitement about the high school parties was, okay, where's my escape route for when the cops do come? Where am I going? And will I be in good enough mental shape to make it to where I need to go?
So if you did this regularly, they must have known, like, okay, they're starting. We're just going to let them go for a little while. Let them have their fun. Okay, it's 11:30 now. We better go over there,
And they probably, they of course got their first call when there were 17 cars parked in front of one house. I mean,
they're probably like, no, we don't want to go yet. We'll just wait a little while. Let them have their fun first.
Yeah.
Because they did it last week. They're going to do it next week.
Right. Oh, yeah. Always. So that was That was always entertaining. There are a couple liquors that I cannot drink anymore because I exhausted myself on them at those days.
I have one of those too from my college days.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot drink Yukon Jack. I remember.
Really?
Our thing, I think I've said I grew up in this little small farm town in Wisconsin. So we used to drive around on the farm roads, on the roads on the outskirts of town. And it was, nobody really lived in the county, so they were always empty. And so the thing was, you would go to McDonald's, which was in a neighboring town because we were such a small town. You'd go to McDonald's and you'd get a big Coke or Diet Coke or whatever, and you'd pour Yukon Jack in it, and you'd have to drive around on these roads. But the Yukon Jack, it was so strong that, because we always mix them strong, it would eat the bottom of the McDonald's cup.
Really?
So you'd have to drink it fast enough so that it wouldn't start leaking out the bottom before you were done. So we're out driving around trying to chug this. Yeah. So
well, at least you had a timer. You had a timer. It was like.
Oh, I can't drink that anymore at all.
I bet. No, if you had to force that down that quickly.
Hey, girls, that was your mom.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hi, kids.
Oops.
Yep. This will be on record forever. You can always find this. No. But yeah, that was. I think I got most of my drinking out of the way.
Right. That's the way I feel.
Before I was legally able to drink, probably.
That's kind of the way I feel.
Yeah. But that's
There's good to it.
Yeah. But that's what you do in a small town. That's all there is to do. You find ways to drink illegally as a child.
And I don't know about you. I don't know when they changed the drinking age, but for us it was 18. So when we were in high school, a lot of people could get alcohol.
Oh wow, sure. Yeah, no, it was always 21 here.
But it didn't really matter. We still managed.
No, I think I was making the fake IDs for my friends at one point. So, yeah, I think I'm Chief Fox. I think I'm 7 years. I think I'm way past the statute of limitations for coming after me for this. But I'll never forget my mom telling me a story. She looks up one day and there's a bunch of kids coming into the house and she's like, "Wow, Pete's got a lot of friends. What's everybody doing here?" And she came in just to see what was going on, and here I am just passing out like, "Okay, this is from Tennessee. Now you got to remember the birthdays right down here." And yeah, it was
So you've had that entrepreneurial streak.
That's right. The entrepreneurial spirit was always there, just not always focused in the right ways. I think the first time I tried to use one of the fake IDs that I made for myself, I forgot the birth date on it.
You didn't follow the directions.
No, I did it all wrong, and I tried to hand it to the clerk, and she says, "Oh, I've never seen one of these IDs from Tennessee."
Because it's not an ID.
Well, it was a great Tennessee ID, and that's why I made it, because I thought, well, everybody knows how to pick out the fakes in a Florida ID, but if I give somebody a Tennessee ID, they have no idea what a Tennessee ID looks like. Neither did I. I'll never forget this. This is a great moment. I hand her the card, and she's like, "Oh, I can't find the birthday on this. What's your birthday?" And I said, I think I said it first. Yep. And she says, "No, really, I can't find the birthday." I say, "Well, it should be on there somewhere."
Don't ask me that. But it is a trick question.
She's like, "Well, just tell me what your birthday is." And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, she handed it back to me, and she said, "Do a better job next time." And it was yeah.
Write it on your hand,
Right, I know. And so
then
I memorized the birthday and walked a few blocks down the road and used it at a different liquor store. But I was very thankful she gave it back to me. She could have kept it.
So how do you make fake IDs? How do you do that?
Wow. So I had a friend who worked at the YMCA, and he brought me a stack of blank YMCA cards. And so I would just print out what looked like an ID, a front and back. I mean, it was not a good fake ID, but it worked. But I would print out on glossy paper, the front and back ID, and then laminate it.
So you had to make up the entire contents? You didn't use some sort of graphics that...
No.
I can't remember back then what was available on computers.
Back then there wasn't much. I mean, there wasn't... I'm sure right now you can Google fake ID template and something will come up. No, I had to do them... I had to use all my artistic talents in making vastly illegal fake IDs. So, yeah.
I can't believe they ever worked.
I can't either. But I went through, like... I I made them so bad looking that, like, I would take them outside and just rub them in the dirt and stuff. So they looked old and worn, and people would just see them and be like, I guess this is an ID. I guess
I can't
this
even
is,
read it. It must be
right,
legal.
Yeah, it's old and worn and
Do you remember how much you charged for?
$30, I think. Yeah, that's way too little.
I'm
I should have
wondering
been
how
charging
many
a lot
people
more.
back then had those. How many kids had those?
Yeah, quite a few. Quite a few kids had them back then.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's funny.
there were kids who. The funniest thing was a kid brought me a black and white picture one time, and he's like, "Can you make me an ID with this picture?" I said, "This is your yearbook. It's like his basketball picture from school or something." I'm like, "No, I can't do this. I mean, license don't have black and white pictures." But
But who would know?
I think I still sold him an ID because he wanted one, and I'm not going to turn down the $30 back then. I doubt it ever worked anywhere.
It's good money.
Hey, it was back then. Oh.
Did your mom know you were doing that?
Yeah, she found out. She found out. She wasn't happy.
Because in a way, it's almost like, well, son, let's see how far you can take this.
Yeah, right. No, there was a weird situation when somebody at one of the high schools got caught with one of them, and I was told that the FBI came into the classroom to pull him out and talk to him about it.
Were you told that during the time it was happening?
I was told that during that was probably my first scoop. That was, as it was happening to me, somebody at the high school was calling me and saying, "Hey, Pete, your friends just got pulled out of the classroom by the FBI."
Sorry, I'm sick today.
Yeah. So I think at that point I took the computer that I was making the fake IDs on.
Which was probably, what, a Tandy back then or something?
Oh, it was huge. It was this big IBM stupid computer. Weighed 50 pounds. I drove it all the way to Daytona and threw it in a dumpster. I was like, nobody is finding this.
There's a lot of dead bodies in Daytona,
right? There's a lot worse than a computer with a fake ID on it in Daytona for sure. So I was done after that. I was done forging government documents after that. Yeah.
So did you have siblings?
Yeah, two brothers.
Did they get into trouble too?
They got into less trouble than me.
Where are you in the sibling age?
I'm the oldest, so I was unfortunately setting a very bad example for my siblings. But luckily, they didn't pick up on too much of what I was doing.
Usually that's a youngest move.
Yeah, my youngest brother got in a little bit of trouble. My youngest brother and I have different dads. So my youngest brother is Herschel Pollock, who's Ned Pollock's son.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and he works for the American Pickers now. He's doing great. I always brag on my youngest brother, but thank God he didn't follow in any of my footsteps.
Thank God for your mom, really.
Yeah, jeez, I don't know how she did it with three boys anyway. But if they were all as bad as me, it would have been. Oh, my poor mother.
Was there only one high school in the county then, or were there more than? I don't know.
There was St. Joe and St. Augustine.
St. Joe's always been here.
Pedro came along when I was about a junior in high school, so I did kind of the tour of high schools. When I was first signing up for high school, I wanted to play football. You can see I'm not the tallest guy. I'm not the most muscular guy. Karen, I wasn't in high school either.
Neither was Maurice Jones-Drew.
That's a good point. I, however, was not as talented whatsoever as Maurice Jones-Drew. And so I went to St. Augustine High School and sat in Joey Wiles's introduction of St. Augustine High School football. And I said,
yeah, I'll let the story go.
No, yeah. I said almost immediately, A, I'll never make this team. And B, this coach would kick my ass.
And I'm too busy making fake IDs and going to illegal
I've got
parties.
a business to work on. I've got other things. So I decided St. Joe would be much easier to make the football team at St. Joe. So I talked my parents into. My dad had a magazine growing up, the St. Johns County Chronicle and St. Augustine Tonight. And so he worked out a deal with St. Joe where he would trade a little bit of advertising because we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have send your kid to St. Joe money. So he traded out some advertising, and they got me into St. Joe.
It's funny in and of itself.
I know, but I knew I could make that football team, and we only had like 17 guys. I was still the smallest guy. I still got my ass kicked every single game.
And the coach didn't really care what you were doing.
No, no.
Because, you know,
coach
it's just a
didn't care
Catholic
at
school.
all.
They don't care.
Yeah, they don't care at all. No, my God. So after football season, I transferred to St. Augustine High School. I got out of St. Joe, went to St. Augustine High School, didn't play any more sports, didn't play any more football after that, and then went to Menendez the first year they opened.
I'm surprised you didn't angle to do something with the games, like announce them or promote something like that, based on all of your entrepreneurial history you'd already had.
Well, as
you got the megaphone.
Yeah, but as we covered, Karen, my entrepreneurial spirit was not headed in the right direction at that point. It was more like, what can I get away with and not get caught doing?
But with that megaphone, you could have thrown out little comments.
Yeah, I could have been doing a lot more productive things with that megaphone, that's for sure. A lot more than what I was doing, for sure. But yeah, a lot of going to high school, a lot of high school was moments like that, was times of just like feeling like needing to prove yourself, I guess, is a lot of us.
I think everybody goes through
everybody,
that.
right? So with me, it was sports. It was like, because I was always the small kid, it was like, okay, I can make the football team. I can play football. And then when Pedro first opened up, I tried out for basketball because I loved basketball. But again, short, not equipped
you were
for
up
basketball.
for challenges.
I was, yeah. And again, I wanted to prove to myself that I could do things that I wasn't supposed to be able to do. So I tried out for the basketball team, I remember, made the basketball team, went to 2 practices, and I was like, okay, I know I'm good enough to make the basketball team. I don't have to play.
That's all I wanted.
Yeah, I don't like the structure of being coached. I don't like this. I don't like running plays. Just give me the ball and let me shoot a couple 3-pointers. That's all I want to do. But so after that, I'd proved to myself that I could do basketball, and I think I quit that immediately. But stuff like that. I never found what stuck at that point, you know? I didn't know it was anything to do with announcing or the voice or anything like that. I was just trying to figure out what it was. I think I was working at McDonald's.
Were you on the drive-through line where you were on the speaker?
Yes. And so many people would say to me, you have a great voice. You should be on radio. You know, you should be doing radio. And that was the first time I even ever thought about doing something in broadcasting was then. Because so many people would come to the line and say, "You just got this amazing voice. You should."
You were probably
do
hamming
something."
it up a little too.
Oh yeah, I would sometimes
take a
yeah, no, and I would sometimes try to make people, if I didn't want to do work, I'd make them think we got a new automated system. It was, welcome to McDonald's. Please stand by for just a few minutes as our associates can better assist you. And I would just mess with people sometimes in the line. And they didn't know what to do, but I guess I was learning at that point that I should be doing something with my voice a little more than the McDonald's drive-thru.
So after high school, what did you do? Did you get started in something like this right away, or?
Yeah, I drank a lot and smoked a lot of weed. I think right after high school is the first thing I did.
Which has probably been helpful somehow.
Somehow, we'll go with that.
'Cause now you're not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. We'll go with that. No, but I think right after high school, I got into demolition. I worked with a company, CDR, who's still here. Great folks.
Yep.
And got into just hard labor, tearing down houses and doing renovations and things like that on big jobs. And
you had to think pretty quickly, what the hell am I doing?
Oh, it was one of the
This is
worst
hard
jobs
and
I've ever
hot
had.
and dirty
Yeah. Oh, it was awful. Yeah, you come home at night. It's one of those jobs. You get in the shower and you're just covered in dirt. And
where do you
just,
start?
Yeah, it's just the tub becomes just black from dirt, and it was definitely the hardest job I've ever had. But those jobs teach you so much.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you have to do those really hard, difficult, crappy jobs so that you realize, okay, this is not what I want to do.
I never want to do this again. Yeah, absolutely.
That's also why minimum wage jobs should pay minimum wage.
Right.
So that people realize, I need to do something more.
More than this if I want to have a better life. Yeah. No, my dad always said, his dad was a mechanic, and so his dad always told him, work with your brain and not with your hands, because this isn't going to make you as much money as your brain can make you. You're not going to do as well with your hands. And that's not to say there's not a lot of people who do amazing trades and make amazing money and great lives for themselves, but that was just a saying that he kind of had that always kind of stuck with me was, try to work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And that was also reiterated in the construction and demolition business. Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Meanwhile, now plumbers and electricians are in huge demand.
Oh, yeah.
And making
big
money in AC techs because nobody's doing it
and
anymore.
good for them. They should be.
Yeah.
They're doing the hardest work out of all
and
of us.
Nobody's going into those fields anymore.
Yeah.
So interesting how that advice is kind of not so relevant anymore.
Yeah.
So after doing that for a while, how did you get into something like this?
Yeah, so it was kind of by accident. I had a friend. See, I was always messing with audio and video production just out of boredom. Just if I had a camcorder, I'd shoot some video and edit it because I kind of like doing it. And same with audio. So I had a friend who went to Full Sail University, which is, the big audio and video school in Orlando. Got a job down here at a local radio station, and he just didn't want to do it anymore after a little while. He was moving on. He wanted to open up his own studio. And he recommended me for the job because he knew I could handle audio equipment and things like that. So that was really where I started, was at the local sports radio station, producing the worst show on the planet.
Is it still on?
No. Thank God it's not on anymore. People aren't being tortured with this awful show. It was called The Gator Connection. And it was a guy who, God bless him, he was ahead of his time, Karen. He would do the show from his house.
He was doing a Zoom show.
Yeah, it was kind of a Zoom. He had a mobile setup, and he would call in on this mobile setup and run the show from his house.
How did you do the audio on that back then, though?
Oh, it was awful. And I'm so obsessed with having good audio and good video. Yeah, and it did. And at some point, I just had to give up and say, okay, Pete, it's never going to be good. Don't worry about it. It was awful. And he would have his dogs would bark all the time, but that's how I got started talking on the radio, because when his dogs would go into a barking fit,
you had to cover.
He'd just say, "All right, Pete, hey, hang on, we're coming back from break. We got 10 seconds, but my dogs are barking. You talk. You bring us back in." I'm like, "Oh crap, what? I don't know anything. I don't know enough about the Gators to rattle off stats and things like that."
Oh, hang on, Patrick. You need to talk for 15 seconds right now.
Yeah, see. Like, not putting you on the spot or anything, just go, So, yeah, that was, I've always been thrown into the fire. I think that's such a cool way to learn. I think it's one of the best ways to learn is like, okay, here's the job, just go do it. Just go figure out how to do it.
Yeah. Well, it gives you freedom, too, right?
Sure.
I mean, there's no, you have to work within these parameters, which sounds like something that was really, you didn't like working within certain parameters. You wanted to be able to create and do your thing.
Yeah,
right?
That's true. Yeah, definitely. So
you had a station owner, though, who was willing to just throw everything up in the air and go, yeah, hey, do whatever.
Yeah, pretty much, which was nice. It was good to help me kind of develop and
who was the station owner back then?
It was still Chris, who's the station owner now. Yep. And man, she gets a whole lot of credit for really helping me figure out that I wanted to do something like this. After a little while of hosting that awful, god-awful, horrible show, there was another show on the neighboring station because, there's the sports station and then they have WFOY as well, the news talk station. So on the news talk station, there was a Saturday auction show where they would auction off gift certificates.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And it was hosted by a guy named OK Walters. OK Walters was his name. And he got sick one week, couldn't do it. And so Chris called me and said, do you want to try and host this show? Because OK can't make it this week. And I had produced his show a little bit, so I knew a little bit about it. So I went in, filled in, and the station just got a ton of calls. We love this guy. Who is this guy? He's great. And so I was the host.
So OK never came back.
OK was not okay with me being the host, and he never came back. Yeah, he was no. They didn't ask him back after that, which was so I started hosting that show for a couple years, and really developed kind of like the radio chops.
That seems like a show that would be a super free for all. Like
oh yeah, it was.
You gotta talk on the fly, think of what I mean.
And I got in a lot of trouble because it was such a free for all. I remember the secretary coming in a few times and saying, "Pete, we're getting a lot of complaints that you talk like about sex too much, and you talk about just things that the advertisers don't like." She's like, "We got a Christian school who advertises on this show. They don't want to hear about the dildo story," and so, it was it was that was my introduction to hating radio. Was I hated that element of broadcasting that as a broadcaster you weren't. I learned quickly that you weren't putting on shows for the people. You were putting on shows for advertisers.
Sponsors.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't like that at all because there was just not as much of a focus on the people that were supposed to be entertained and receiving this stuff. So
Well, and Howard Stern had already proven very well by that time that, you could say anything on the radio and you could still have advertisers who would let you do that, and people wanted to hear that kind of radio.
Yeah.
He maybe was more extreme. I don't know. Maybe he was a little more extreme or a little more
extreme than me.
Consistently extreme than what you wanted to be. But, he proved it.
Yeah.
I mean, he really broke down barriers.
Yeah. Yeah. He was doing, podcasting is known for being just completely uncensored, a free for all, and he was doing that.
He was doing that well before podcasting.
Yeah. Which is awesome. I mean, you want to talk about a trailblazer? I mean, that guy paved the way for a lot of folks. Radio was a little restrictive, broadcasting in general, and I got a even more of a taste of that when we had a guy come through to host a political talk show. He had been a city councilman. He had done some stuff in D.C. He'd been a VH1 talk show host at one time. So he was trying to get back into. He had moved here. He had just moved here. Still lives around here. And so he wanted to get back warmed up into doing radio and broadcasting and things like that because it was a passion and he really loved it. He ended up getting picked up by the Washington Times in D.C. And when he did, I had worked with him a lot. I produced his show a whole lot. And he said, I got this great opportunity in D.C., and I would like you to be my producer for the show.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so it was
Hitting
really
the
cool.
big time.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. Wow, we're going to D.C., the heart of all this political stuff, and this is where it happens.
This is real radio.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this is, we're going into the heart of where decisions are made for the whole world. It was very exciting.
People are going to hear us now.
Yeah. It was like, that was a little bit of pressure, too. And it was really cool. The company we worked for went and they put us up in this really great apartment that was like 3 blocks from the Capitol. So you could walk out into the front yard of this apartment, and there was the Capitol building.
Oh, so
right
cool.
there.
So you knew why you were doing it.
Oh,
like
yeah.
There was a sense of place.
Yeah. So it was cool. So I went off to D.C., and basically my job as the producer was to build relationships with congressmen and senators so that they would come on our show. So I'm every day going into just the congressional buildings and the Senate buildings and walking in offices and saying, hey, I'm Pete Melfi. This is what I do. I work for the Times. We do a radio show. I'd love to have you guys on. And
that's very different, though, from what you were doing previously.
Oh, completely
very
different. I had to learn how to do that on the fly. I was, as we've established, I was kind of a little jerk of a human being in my younger years.
Well, also you were doing some illegal things, and now you're going into
right, and now I'm walking into the law. Yeah, the place where there's the law. I mean, all the laws are made there. So it was, but I did get a chance to do a few, to break a couple laws there, and I am quite proud of the couple laws that I broke, Karen.
What'd you do?
I hope I still can't get in trouble for this. There was. So I was going
to... You could say that theoretically, if I had...
Theoretically, this may or may not have happened. May or may not have happened. I was supposed to meet with Rand Paul and his staff at some point, and
that is ripe for law breaking. Just
I know,
right there.
I know, right?
You got to do it.
So I was getting ready to meet with him, and I would always get up there early because, Karen, I would be so nervous about meeting these people that I would have to stop in every bathroom along the way and dry my hands off. Because I was just, it was petrifying.
Well, it's a big deal.
Oh, it was a huge deal.
And they're meeting with,
deal.
heads of state and like CNN and NBC.
And then there's dumbass Pete, nothing Pete coming into the office trying to get him on the show. So I was way early, and I walked by Rand Paul's office, and there were 2 Secret Service guys standing out there, and I contacted the host of the show, and I said, hey, I don't know, just so you know, I might not be able to meet
Am
Rand.
I supposed to go in here?
Yeah, no.
Do you really want to send Pete in there?
Well, he said to me, oh, that's probably because he's meeting with Joe Biden today. So that would explain the Secret Service. And so I was just kind of making laps around, waiting for the Secret Service to leave to know that I could, go in. And I don't know how I acquired it in Washington, D.C., but I did have a vape
Please
pen.
tell me a fake ID.
No.
From Tennessee.
That's not the place I'm walking around with a fake ID, that's for sure. No, I had one of the THC vape pens when they had first come out. And it was starting to get legal there in Washington, D.C., so I'm sure I acquired
But just starting to get.
that along the way. Yeah, just starting to get. Definitely was not legal. Definitely was not legal to be smoking there. So the next time I did a pass by the office, I thought, man, I'm never going to get this chance again. And I got about 10 feet away from the Secret Service guys and I was like, I just hit a puff of weed with Joe Biden 10 feet down the road. And nobody, and I just did it again, Karen, to prove that I could do something that nobody should be doing. My life is filled with these moments of, I just want to do something that probably nobody should be doing. So that was, I don't know why I just told that story on the show. But it was, the whole experience was
Really,
eye-opening.
The thing would have been Rand Paul walking out and finding you, though. I mean,
I don't think Rand Paul would have cared.
Really, I don't think Joe Biden would care.
I think Joe Biden would have cared at that point. Yeah, right. Come on, man. Come on, Rand. He was just smoking a little weed. It's okay.
But I feel like Rand Paul would have been all uptight about that.
I feel like he would have been fine with it. That crazy hair, I think Rand Paul probably
you might
smokes
be
a little
right.
bit of weed
Yeah,
every
you might
now
be
and
right.
then. Yeah.
Maybe the Secret Service, though, would not have
The Secret
been cool.
Service would not have been cool with it.
We can agree on that.
In fact, as soon as I did that, some guy magically came out of nowhere and asked me if I needed help finding somewhere.
Somewhere else.
Yes, he really did. He really did.
Please, sir.
He said, yeah, sir, you've passed where Joe Biden is 5 times. I don't know what you just smoked, but you're not doing well. This trip to the Capitol is not going well for you.
Did you get Rand on the show?
Yeah, we had Rand on the show a few times. Yeah, it was
Mission accomplished.
It was pretty cool. We got everybody on the show. We had Trump on the show a few times. We had your Ted Cruz's and
how do you produce a show when you have to try to rein him in and you don't know where he's going to go?
Yeah. That's a good question. Luckily, I wasn't hosting the show at that point.
I mean, but still, that had to be just my God, he's going down that road.
He was. This was during his first campaign. This was before he had announced for president. Was our first time doing something with him.
When was that? Do you remember?
2015. The first time I met him in person was in Iowa. We did a thing in Iowa, and that was our first in-person interview with him. And he was super down to earth, super nice, very calm, complimented everybody in the room.
Yeah, I've heard that in person, you actually will think he's a really nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say you actually will think. Maybe
no,
I've
it was,
wrong.
It impressed me. Trump impressed me a couple of times because, for one, when you would call most of these people to get them on the show, I would call them and I would give them a little bit of a pre-interview. Hey, this is what we're going to talk about. Thank you for coming on the show, blah, blah, blah. And most of the time, their secretary would answer, and they'd connect you to the politician. Trump and Rand Paul, actually, were two of the only people that answered the phone themselves.
Yeah, but doesn't Trump answer in the... Who's his pretend press guy?
Oh, right, the John something guy.
John something. What, did you have to talk to John?
No,
or
I didn't ever have to
Trump?
talk to John. No, I got to speak to Trump the first time.
Somehow I feel like he probably still does that. He's like, yeah, hey, Donald, what do you need?
Yeah. Probably. I could see that from him.
I got time to answer the phone.
I could see that from him, but a lot of things about him were pretty eye-opening. It was funny because Trump gets called every ist in the world, and I hate to go off on a tangent. I'm not defending Trump. This is not the Trump show. We're not talking about Trump, but I was impressed because of the amount of amazing women that he had that made him the president. I had to go through a wall of women who were very great at not only what they did, but making sure President Trump looked good. They wanted to make sure if he was going to come on your show, he wasn't going to look stupid, And
I will say the hairstylist needs to be replaced.
The hairstylist, yeah. I don't know. I have never understood that. I have never understood that. How can you have that much money and think that's the hairstyle to go with?
And dude, just go with it. You know,
Oh.
what is the problem? You don't.
I don't
need to
know. I don't know. That always baffled me.
Just,
That always baffled me.
Just be real about it.
And he always wears the same suit too. I never got that
Yeah,
either.
with the
It's
red
the blue
tie.
suit with the red tie.
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I learned really working up there was that a lot of scary stuff. Politicians they just want to be in front of people and they want money. They don't do any actual work. Their staff does the majority of the work
Yeah.
up
Yeah,
in DC.
Yeah.
You know, if they want to write a bill,
Yeah.
they say, "Hey, you 5 staff members
Yeah.
that are, by the way, only between like 20 and 25.
Right.
It's time for you guys to write this bill."
Right. Do the research.
Yeah,
everything.
do the research,
Yeah.
write it, and
Yeah.
I'll bring it to the floor
Yeah.
without reading it.
They're like the rainmakers.
Yeah, and that's scary because truthfully, there are kids that are from 18 to 25 that are making a ton of decisions that affect the entire country, and they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah. No life experience.
None whatsoever.
And
they
typically
think they're
somewhat,
amazing.
Yeah, and typically they come from more well-off
Yeah,
families,
yeah.
you know, because they've got
Yeah.
connections to get jobs there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was definitely just all that went on in DC, and the amount of things that politicians would do for airtime or money were just troubling. And after my stint out there for a couple of years, I came back here and started working for the radio stations here again locally, and was kind of thrown into the middle of a mayoral race here.
Which had to seem pretty calm after what you came from.
It seemed calm in some
we
ways.
didn't think of it that way here.
No. It seemed calm in some ways, but in a lot of ways it was just like what was happening up there. I mean, it really was, and that was disturbing to me too, and that was kind of the genesis. That's where I started thinking about, okay, how do I take my experience from DC and everything that I had learned working for a massive media organization like the Times that had been there forever, and apply that here at home without being in bed with politics. Just reach people and tell them the truth and pull back the curtain a little bit and show them what's going on, because just some of the stuff that I saw behind the scenes during that election was just it was just so troubling. People setting up fundraisers, only for the purpose of getting eyes. This was during a major hurricane, and there were people doing things where they were saying, "Hey, look, we just got to make people feel like we care about them. That's the purpose of this."
Feel like.
Yeah,
Exactly.
feel like. And that
Mhm.
was that word. Those words kind of struck me there, and I was almost immediately after that election, I quit the radio station and started a Facebook page, making goofy news videos that kind of pulled back the curtain on some of what was going on behind the scenes, while hopefully trying to make people laugh at the same time.
But when I met you, you were back using the radio station's facilities, so you had to
Yes.
have gone back there.
Yeah, every now
You got a little traction with the Facebook page.
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought it would be, at one point, there was a point where I thought, okay, it'll be good to do a radio show just for perception, because it would just make people feel like this is a little more official than just a Facebook page. You know, it's there's a radio show with this.
Yeah,
which,
he's legit.
Yeah, which doesn't mean anything.
Right,
Which
especially
radio,
now.
Yeah, no, nobody's listening to the radio. Nobody was listening to the radio 5 years ago. But it's just in some people's minds, it's a credibility thing. So I wanted to do that just to say, hey, the 904 now, it's not just a joke anymore. Like, we're gonna do this for real. And yeah, so did a little bit of radio, and then really at the beginning of this year, really realized that all the audience was online. I mean, everybody was online. Everybody's first thing everybody does is wake up and check their social media, or So I thought I just need to have a big presence there, and that's where we need to focus everything is social media and the app now. The app was a big thing for me because as social media grows into kind of this censorship role that it's growing into now, I want to have my own platform where I can reach everybody with important information without the Zuck man being my middleman, without him deciding who
control your content.
Yeah. So that's been a new thing as of this year that I'm really excited about, and that people have been really taken to, and I'm glad they have, because it's just a free source for local stuff, you know.
So when I met you, you were using the facilities of the radio station to produce your show, but
yes,
you
I'm
were
glad
also
you keep keeping me on track here, Karen. This is great because yes, we're back there. Okay.
No,
yes.
but you were also out doing remote videos, and that was great. But now you have your own studio. We're in your studio, and that's a big leap for you to say, all right, I'm going to go open my own studio. And you also, at that same time, once the studio was opened, I'm part of it. You created some shows, or you reached out to people who might have had some ideas in the past. So now you've got a stable of shows that you're producing that add content for you as well.
Yes.
That's a big leap.
Yeah.
That's very different from what you were doing, just, doing your thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can't be just all me. Like, I'm the type of person, Karen, I actually don't love being in front of the camera. I don't love going places and people recognizing me and asking me about, like, I love meeting people. I love meeting new people, and I don't want that to come off as, oh, I don't want anybody to come up and say, Pete. I love that. It's super cool. But also, sometimes you just want to eat lunch, or you just want to, hang out with your family.
I still think there's a little bit of shyness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, so I knew it couldn't just, I wanted to take, some of the pressure off myself, but I wanted to give people some variety too. I mean, it can't just be Pete's opinion, because there's a whole lot more than just Pete's opinion, and that's very valuable. I mean, I don't want to be in the position that much of the media is, where I'm trying to tell people how to live their lives. You should be like, this is what I think, and everybody should think that. I think all perspectives are super important, and I want to have as much of that.
I actually think that's really the beauty of what you're doing. I watch your show when you are hosting it, you and Troy, or when you're just doing your own thing, and it's behind the scenes. I know your political views, or I know your position on something, but when I watch you talk about it, I can't often tell what you think about something, and that's difficult to do. I never pull that off. I'm just going to say it. But you're very good at just putting out maybe some, hey, there's this and there's this.
And people can decide for themselves, because it's not up to me, and I don't want it to be up to me,
But that's really difficult to do.
Oh, yeah, it can be. It can be, because there's sometimes I just want to go off and rant and rave about something, and a lot of the times I do anyway, but
I've actually heard you with Troy take a position that I know is contrary to what you actually believe, but you're advocating for the position that you don't believe in when you talk to Troy, just to give people another perspective on, well, here's a way you could look at it.
Yeah. I have to ask you. I have to ask you what that is, and I don't know if I'm going to regret asking you what that position is.
I'm not going to tell you on the air.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. All right. I appreciate that. I know I don't want to hear the answer.
I'm not saying that that it was detrimental. I'm just saying I watched it and I thought, wow, I know he actually believes the opposite personally, but he's not letting that out there.
Well, there's some things, especially with what we've been dealing with coronavirus. Look, I have my personal opinions on some of the things that have come from what we're dealing with this year. However, I totally understand that I have no idea what this is. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, and I want people to be safe. So although I may feel one way about some aspects of coronavirus, at the same time, I don't want to be the guy who says, we all need to open up, and then I get everybody sick. And,
right.
I want people to everybody to be good, everybody to be happy, and I don't want to put anybody's health in danger just because I think one way. Even though when I come to a conclusion about something, if I think a certain way about something about coronavirus, it's because I do my research. When people say, do your research, and then they send me, Dr. Z-Dog telling me about coronavirus, that's not research. You got to go to the CDC. You got to look at the numbers. You got to go to the you got to look at these things and try your best to interpret them yourself and have experts help you with that.
Don't take your info
stuff.
from a Russian bot.
Don't take your info from Dr. Z-Dog, please. Please.
So how many shows do you have now that you're producing?
Wow.
In the studio?
We've got about 6 shows now that we're producing. Yours, which are going great. Everybody loves your shows.
Thank you.
The Straight Up No Chaser show, which is awesome. All the shows are doing great, and I'm really glad that people are gravitating towards again, more perspectives than just mine.
Well, so that's interesting. So, for example, the Straight Up No Chaser, that doesn't have anything to do really with politics. It's just a fun show.
Yeah.
You know, they're just having a good time.
Local bartenders.
And people enjoy watching and hearing them.
Yeah.
But your original production shows weren't that. They were very much, you know, here we're going to dig into local issues or local politics or whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to be on the scene.
Yeah.
So now you've expanded into things that are almost just more entertainment.
Right.
To see where that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I like that. Again, I grew up in the entertainment world. I like entertaining people. I like people laughing and smiling and having a good time. And I'm not the only one who can help them do that.
How many shows do you think you're going to eventually do? Do you have a vision for building out more, or where do you think you're going to take this?
I don't know how many shows. It'd be hard to put a number on that.
What's your vision for where you're going to take it? Or are you just going to work this right now? I don't see you sitting still going, yeah, this is where it's at. I'm going to just stay with this.
I never stay still, and I never really have had a plan or make a plan for this, for the 904 Now. Because we talked about evolving earlier, and I never know how I'm going to have to evolve in 6 months, you know? So I just ride the wave. I see where it goes and see what people like, and again, try to inform them along the way.
Do you get pushback at all from local government? And when I say local, I don't mean just city of St. Augustine. I mean like county as well. Do you ever get pushback on things that you're covering on your shows? Do you ever hear any feedback that, you know, that we don't like that? Or?
Not well. I know there's a couple commissioners who won't talk to me.
That's a shame.
I know. Yeah,
it's always good to come on and talk to people that aren't your pro you.
Yeah, and too. I'm totally open-minded too to talking to anybody who doesn't agree with me. So
and I feel like you'd always be respectful. I mean, you
absolutely.
Working in DC, you had to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. So no, it's. You know, there's an entertainment factor, and then there's just a human factor, and I try not to be just a total asshole for no reason. So I welcome everybody's opinion. If I've cussed you out and called you the F word a few times, maybe
I think you'll take
I'm sorry. But if you called me the F word a few times or used it against me, I'd still talk to you too. So.
Yeah.
No, not in the sense.
Listen.
It's been really. I've been encouraged because I think a lot of the stories we've covered, a lot of the things that I've brought to light, have actually affected government decisions a lot of times in positive ways. And
I
I've
would
seen
agree.
that, and so I'm very proud of that. And I haven't seen a lot of real pushback. Again, there are people who just don't like me, and I can understand that. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's had a positive effect on local government. I really do. I hope so.
I think it has, yeah. And I've seen that you've often scooped other news outlets. That's pretty cool. How does that feel that you're scooping, First Coast News, you're The Record, you're scooping them off?
Yeah, it's super easy to scoop The Record. It's but no, it's
pretty especially
cool.
Now that they're not even really local anymore.
Yeah, and that's
is a shame.
That's a shame, and that's tough because they're owned by, I think, the folks that own the USA Today. So it's
and you can see that in their content.
Yeah,
it's like this wasn't even written by somebody local.
But
that gives you then this lane.
A little bit of an advantage in that lane, in the local information kind of sector. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to have a story and then a day or two or 3, 4, however long it takes them to find it, the big news stations will pick it up. And you've been part of that a couple of times, I think.
Yeah. But they often don't mention that, the 904 Now had this.
They've started to,
that's
which
where
is nice.
I got it from. Yeah,
it's nice.
Recently,
the Jacksonville stations have started crediting me with stuff, and the Record has been really good about crediting me, and the 904 Now and you with some of the stuff that we've done. So yeah, we're making traction. We're becoming a real thing here. It's nice.
So no little sneak peeks on the next thing that might be coming down the pipeline?
I wish I could give myself a sneak peek. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just like you guys. I think the high school football, I'm going to try and do a lot more high school sports.
Here we go back to high school football.
Yeah, right? It's all coming back. But that's been really good, and I love doing live stuff. People like things that are happening now, and we were able to put on a really good show for football. So I'm excited to see where things like that go. I'm just trying to be anything that needs to be highlighted, anything that's local, anything that's happening here. I'm trying to be there and bring it to people.
So I have a question for you, because you are often there
Yeah.
and before anyone else. You go on your Facebook page and it's like, wow, Pete's right there. It's happening and nobody else is covering it. Are you sleeping?
Yeah. Lucky for me in this job, I'm a bad sleeper anyway. So
Because
I'm a little bit of an insomniac anyway.
I feel like you're always just running out to film the thing that people want to see as it's happening.
Yeah. Definitely. And I'll get messages at 11, 12 o'clock at night sometimes. And yeah, I'll rush out if it's something that I think people should know or that they'd be interested in. I really don't have a bedtime. I'm kind of on call.
That's what it seems like from watching your feed.
Yeah, which can get exhausting, which is why I'm starting to bring in people like Patrick, who's running the show today.
So, Patrick, when you get a call at 2 a.m.,
yeah.
the boss did it. Hey.
That's right. No,
Boss
but
did
guys
it, you
like
gotta do it.
Patrick, who's great at what he does, can help me take some of the pressure off some of the other aspects of this business, because it started off as just kind of having some fun and wanting to inform people, and now it really is a business that I need to staff and that I need help with.
Yeah, and that's what's really challenging, right, as you grow, because I own a small business as well. As you grow, you do something that you love, and then you start to realize, okay, now I have to have staff, now I have to have an accountant, now I have to have QuickBooks, and then it's
and
hard
I have to come up with the money to have all that stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to really stay focused on why you're doing what you love when you're doing all these other things.
Yeah,
but it's also hard to turn it over.
Yeah. And for me, it's easy to stay focused on what I love, because I never want to work for a boss again. That's my worst fear.
Well, you're like me. I can't do that either.
Yeah.
I'm a bad employee. I will freely admit.
No,
I'm
me
a
too.
really bad employee.
Because, look, as soon as I
'Cause
get
you're always
burned
like,
out.
why do we have to do that? Why can't I do it this way?
Right. Why am I going out doing all the work and you're just you're benefiting immensely off of it, and I'm not.
I think this would be a better way to do it. Why can't we try that?
And nobody wants to. Nobody in media ever listened to me, Karen, when I said we could be doing it better. So I like that my ideas. I'm able to prove that they work.
Yeah,
it's a good feeling.
Yeah, that's really fun.
But I never want to have a boss again. I'm one of these people who just. I can get as soon as I get burned out at my job, I'm done. It's over. You're gonna get crap work from me, and you're gonna not like me being there, and I'm not gonna like being there.
Me too.
So
you gotta have passion for it, or it's just not working.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And so this is definitely my passion right now. I love doing it.
Well, Pete, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and
this
talk about
fun.
you,
Thank
do
you.
background, and just give people a little sneak peek into actually look back on how you got here. And I feel like this is something that you've never really done before. You've never told people your story.
No.
So that's exactly what this is about.
You've got the exclusive. You've got the scoop. If the record picks it up, I hope they give you credit for it, Karen. Thank you. This is really fun.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And thanks, Patrick, for producing it so that he could sit here.
Yeah.
So we are the St. Augustine Chronicles. New shows drop every Monday, and follow St. Augustine Chronicles on Facebook at St. Augustine Chronicles Podcast. And we're also on YouTube. And I thank you for watching.